I call the East Lyme Board of Finance regular meeting for Wednesday, March 13th to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda is delegations for members of the public to address the Board of Finance, and I see we don't have any members of the public here. Next is the approval of minutes for the regular meeting of February 14th, 2024.
Yeah, I move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of the Board of Finance on February 14th, 2024.
I'll second.
Anybody knowing any errors or omissions? Okay, well, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Abstain. I wasn't here.
I was also not here.
Motion carries. Let's go to reports of the First Selectman.
Oh, good evening. It's a pleasure to be here tonight and with Kevin, and we're going to present. You have in front of you, I believe, your budget books. Oh, this is my report. I'm sorry, that's further down. So, well, I kind of jumped the gun a little bit. I'm so anxious here. I've got so many good things to tell you about. I can't wait. But what I will say for my First Selectman report is, you know, a few weeks ago, we closed on the property of the public space, and we're preserving that. And I got some news today from the attorney that I'm working with on it, and there was the other piece of it was a $400,000 grant from DEEP from the state of Connecticut back to town of East Lyme. And there were certain things that we had to do to get that money, and most of which have been done, and now I think it's in the hands of DEEP, and hopefully the next meeting I'm quite sure that I'll be able to report to you that we've gotten that check for $400,000 back from the state of Connecticut. But we did the things that we had to do, recording certain maps and other details that they wanted. So we're well on our way to getting refunded that $400,000. So I thought that was good news. We've been working hard on the budget, and later on, in a few minutes, we'll be presenting that to the board. That's my report.
Thank you. Let's hear from the Director of Finance.
All right, like our First Selectman, I have a short report tonight. I have not provided any actual financial reports. I will send those hopefully this weekend. The one thing I will give the board is a meeting schedule. I believe there was a draft floating around, but this is the finalized one. These agendas have been filed. They're on file with the town clerk's office, and they're posted online. So with that, I know there was the only other thing I'll add on the Board of Finance page on the town website. There is now a space for materials for the budget for the meetings going forward. That was a request to have an online place for the documentation. So with the help of Mike Mines in the IT department, we added that. So hopefully in the next day or two we'll put some budget versus actuals on the website and some documents for you guys to review, and we'll send off an email to let you know when we have that. So with that, the finance office is just working on wrapping up the 22 audit and getting this budget out. So we're quite busy over there in the finance office. So that's all I have to report. Mr. Steele.
Yes, I was wondering where we're at in terms of the $2.3 million that we borrowed from the fund balance this last year. Have we utilized any of it, or
No.
is none of it has been utilized?
Correct. Yeah, I don't transfer anything out of that fund balance. We see where we fall with all the revenues at year end, and then if there's a gap between what we've spent and if there's more expenses than the revenues, then we will use some of that fund balance. But in the prior couple of years that we've had use of fund balance in the budget, we haven't had to use it.
Right.
We've had some unexpected revenues, so not yet. I'll put a note in to do a projection, see where we stand.
Okay. Do you anticipate that we'll be pretty close to the previous years? That the majority of that funding will still be unused?
So we're in really good shape with two revenue lines. The building department permits is already 100%. 100, right around 100%. I think it was 99 last time I looked. And then interest income is up as well. There was something that happened at the beginning of the year. There was a timing issue with interest, so some interest from last year got put into this year. So right now we're at about $1 million of interest already. We budgeted 625,000.
Wow.
So I imagine probably be $1.3 million, $1.4 million by the end of the year, which is double that number. That'll offset any use of fund balance.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, on to new business, it's the budget presentation.
Okay, so now I can start. So, good evening. You have your budget books, I believe, right?
Yep.
And so, let me say, we all know these are hard times, and it's always a challenge in times like these. We have inflation. Put together a budget and one that is acceptable to the Board of Finance and to the public at large. But we worked very hard. We've tried to trim any fat that was in the budget, and the presentation was really guided by certain principles of being conservative and trying to stay away from the really balance the needs from the wants, and try to, of course, take care of the needs and be careful on the wants that people ask for. On the second page of our presentation, you'll see a section called Budget Initiatives. And, I've come to an understanding of how important it is to posture the town in the light of borrowing money and in the bonding markets. And so we wanted to take those steps that make us a better risk and will continue to give us a high rating when we go to bond money. One of those things was to have a coastal resiliency fund. We haven't had that in the past, and that's a new initiative in this budget. We're not putting a lot of money into it, but we're putting some money into it, and it's a start. And we had the problem with the wall on the beach, and things are changing. Climate is changing, and it's really being looked at. Coastal communities to be sure that they have started preparations for things that may happen in the future. So, having a coastal resiliency fund is very important and will serve us well down the road. And we'll try to add to it every year. This is the start. The next area is the OPEB trust, and I know you're all probably a lot more familiar with that term than I am, but as Kevin has explained it to me, that's another area of obligations that the town has, and it's looked at by those the bond markets, and so we need to have that in place. And so this budget starts that OPEB trust fund, and so that's a new initiative as well. Another area that is important and that came to my attention, we had meetings with our insurers, KERMA, that insures the town. And we've seen that cybersecurity is more and more a concern for municipalities. Malware, ransomware, we had, as you probably know, a situation a year ago where it cost the town quite a bit of money on a ransomware attack against the town. So cybersecurity is really important, and you're going to see it show up in a couple of different places. It's not viable yet for us to get cyber insurance, and the reason is we haven't done all the things yet that would put us in a position where an insurance company would want to give us that type of insurance. You need to have certain controls in place, certain protections software-wise in place. But you will see as you look at the IT budget, there's kind of a theme running through this budget. We are trying to position ourselves and do the things necessary so in the future insurance company will want to sell us cyber insurance. So we're trying to get ourselves to that point. That's very important for the fiscal stability of the town, not to, if we suffer that type of a loss, to have insurance in place to cover it. So we have to get to the place where we can actually be allowed to purchase that insurance. It's kind of like, you know, if you have 1 million speeding tickets, you're not going to get car insurance, right? Same kind of deal. We got to have the right controls in place so we'll be a better risk insurance company. The next area you'll see active assailant, which is an unfortunate risk in society today. But if you were to have, you know, an active assailant event in town, it's very disruptive to say the least. There's a lot of aspects to such an event. So in that unfortunate circumstance, there is insurance available, and we do need to consider that, and we should try to purchase that insurance. So we have a place for that. The other area is builder's risk. There was a high school in, what town was it?
In Milford.
In Milford.
New Milford.
New Milford. I don't know if you're aware of what happened in New Milford, but they were completing a new high school, and they were making some repairs on the roof, and the torch kind of burned the place down. And yeah, and it was what, a $40 million?
I think it's like 25 or 40 million.
Loss. Yeah. So we have, as you'll see in our capital plan, we have 3 or 4 roofs that we're going to be putting on. So we want to make sure that we have the right type of builder's risk insurance. And in fact, now you have to have a separate, my understanding is you need a separate policy, like a rider, but it's actually, I think, a separate policy. If you're doing roof work, you have to have this special policy, because that is, I guess, a very serious risk. And so we're trying to take care, we're trying to be responsible in all those insurance areas. As you know, we've created a new department, Youth, Family, and Human Services. And it was seen that it's an important area of a service that the town needs to present and have available to the public for people that live here. There's different elements to it. There are some services that are provided by the high school for younger people that are maybe having some emotional or concerns and different things that they're going through. And so this is another service that we can offer, and not just to young people, but for families in general, to have some sort of a counseling guardrails available to people that are in need, and are, you know, we would benefit from that service. So we're starting that service. It will grow, I'm sure, but there is a very real need. There are some nonprofits that offer certain aspects of counseling for people that have similar needs, but we have to do our part too. So we're trying to make sure that we have the resources available in town here for people that might, you know, benefit from it. Maybe you saw there was an article in the paper about the centralized fire service. There have been attempts in the past to change our fire service, and they really never moved forward. We had a study from 2018 that suggested that we had to make certain changes in the fire service. Well, I'm taking it on, and I'm trying to make it happen. And we set up a centralized fire service area in the budget, and some of the expenses that were in the past were in the Flanders Fire Department, which is a 501c3, and which was in the Niantic Fire Department, which is also a 501c3. Those funds are now incorporated into the East Lyme Fire Service area in the budget. And what that means is there'll be oversight, there'll be management, and making sure that certain things are done, certain maintenance items, the expenses that to make sure that the trucks are working properly, that they have tires that they're supposed to have. All those things, we're going to have that centralized. And right now I've appointed an acting fire chief, and that acting fire chief, until we solidify the final structure of the department, will be responsible for making sure that those things happen in a timely fashion. So there'll be a chain of command, there'll be a chain of authority from me to the fire chief down the line. So we're trying to do that. As part of that, we've hired an 11th firefighter, and that's important. We're trying to improve the fire coverage throughout town, and that's always you know, something we need to be mindful of. And so we're trying to make improvements, and that 11th firefighter will help us to have better coverage. As we, you know, the schedules are very complex in the fire service, but this will certainly assist us and help us. And I already talked a little bit about having a chief and a deputy chief in the East Lyme Fire Service. They're acting positions right now because I need to get the approval of the Board of Selectmen to have them ratify my appointment of an acting chief, and I want to air that out in the most transparent way that I can. So I'm going to have they'll be put before the Board of Selectmen so there can be comment and people can weigh in on it, and so there'll be adequate transparency in that move. One of the things I learned from Kevin in working on this budget, and I was a finance major a long time ago, and I've forgotten a lot of the concepts because I did other things, but getting back to some of those concepts, Kevin reacquainted me with the importance and the dynamic of cash capital versus debt in financing the budget. And to the extent that we can improve and add to using cash capital, if we can increase that in our budget and rely a little bit less on debt, well, of course, as you know, that benefits us years and years and years down the road. So I think we made a bold move and we increased the cash capital in this budget. Yes, there'll be a cost, but the savings over time, of course, will exceed the cost. So you'll see that as we get further, as you get into the budget. And another philosophy as we move forward was emphasis on maintaining buildings and vehicles and other assets. You know, we can't afford to let things deteriorate. We pay a lot of money. I mean, trucks now are just, this equipment is just, it's amazing what things cost. So we have to take care of what we have. And, you know, I had the benefit of a tour of the public safety complex a week or two ago. And one of the things that really impressed me, they have like a car wash inside the building. And the trucks come in, I mean, they put salt or whatever stuff they use for treating the roads. But they, you know, they got the pressure washers and they're diligent in washing that equipment down and taking care of our equipment. And that's why they get more life. You know, the frames don't rust out as quickly as they would otherwise. And so they really do a good job of taking care of the equipment. And we have to extend that philosophy to the buildings, to everything we use in town here. We have that duty to the taxpayers. And that's why, you know, you're going to see some roof replacements in the capital plan. Well, you know, if you're going to take care of a building, you start at the top and you make sure that you don't get moisture into that building. So we have to spend money on those things, and we're going to do it. And again, we talked about prioritizing wants over needs. One of the things we did, there was a request for lighting in the pickleball courts, right? We're putting in the pickleball courts, and but you know, that was lighting is kind of a luxury, at least for now. So we took that out of the capital plan. We did buy some luminescent pickleballs instead that they can use. No. We didn't buy the luminescent pickleball balls, but we. I'm sorry, couldn't resist. You told me to leave that joke in. Yeah, okay. So, but we're going to put that off till another time, and we can better afford it. So, so those are the budget initiatives. The next page are the numbers. I'm going to let Kevin speak to the numbers because he's more conversant than I am in that aspect.
So this is the first page of your budget workbook. We're just under $92 million, 6.88%, and we'll break some of these numbers out in the next couple slides. So just to let everyone know, this is under a 2 mil increase by 1/100th of a mil, but still, it is under 2 mils. That was one of our priorities. There's a number of initiatives in this budget, so it is a very, very, robust, and I can't think of where I was going to go for. You know, there's a lot going on here. We're trying to do a lot. So the impact on the taxpayer. If your house is valued at $500,000, the increase in this proposed budget is about $88 a month. So just to let everyone know, if your house is $1 million, it's $176 a month proposed. So what are the cost drivers of this budget? There's really 4 sections on the expenditure side of the budget to talk about: town operations, Board of Ed, debt service, and then cash capital. Right? So when we're talking about the increases, the overall budget, it has an increase of about $6 million, $5.9 million. Of that, 1.5 million is made up of town operations, or about a quarter. 10% roughly between capital, 10% debt service, and then the other 56% is the Board of Ed. So this is what this is what's driving the budget. When we look at the mills, the town side is half a mil, Board of Ed is 1.1 mils, and between debt service and capital, those are about 1/10 of a mil each. Okay, so town operations. We're going to break down that first section, town operations. What we picked here was departments that have more than $100,000 of an increase. There's 7 departments, 2, 4, 6, 7. There's 2, 4, 6 departments, and then the 7th is a little catch-all. First one, my department, the finance office. The large drivers there are 3 softwares we're running in the finance office this year. We have our current legacy system, MCSJ, about $30,000 a year. We have NovaTime, a new time and attendance system that was paid for with ARPA dollars previously. That's now in the general fund. That's about $30,000 a year. And then Munis, that's $60,000 a year on the town side alone, $50,000 on the Board of Ed, and then $20,000 in the water and sewer. So those 3 of themselves are about a $100,000 increase on the software side. The union members in my office of a 5.25% contractually obligated increase. So that's where the finance office is up about 100,000. Next year, I imagine well, maybe not next year, the year after, we're going to drop one of the accounting systems, right? So in the next couple of years, we're running 2 accounting systems, MCSJ and Munis. In the next 2 years, we're implementing Munis, and then we're going to slowly sunset MCSJ, but that's going to be an 18-month period. So hopefully next year we might be able to drop that $30,000 expense. So we'll keep you abreast of that. Public Works, having one of the largest staffs in the town hall, that 5.25 contractually obligated increase for the UPSU employees, that hits the highway department. There's 20-something Public Works employees down there. So a large driver of the Public Works increase is salaries as well. The fire service, as Mr. Cunningham mentioned, the fire service is going to be more robust. We're adding an 11th fireman. We have not started that position yet. That position starts July 1st, proposed if the budget passes. So we're adding the 11th fireman. We are adding more money to OSHA, to training. We also added, we moved under the Board of Selectmen adjustments, $70,000 of fire hydrant maintenance that was in building maintenance, Department 113. We moved that to the fire service where it really is more appropriate for it. We also, as Dan mentioned, we promoted the fire marshal and the deputy fire marshal to acting chief, acting deputy chief. That comes with a slight increase in pay. All those things add up to that $300,000 number increase in the fire service. Police, there's $250,000 there. So while we did not add a police officer to the budget, last year we only paid for 1.3 police officers when we added the 2 police officers. We paid for 16 months of the 24 months we need to budget. This year we have to budget the additional 8 months that we did not budget last year. So this year we have about, I think, 3/4 of a full-time equivalent in the budget before we add any additional police officers. And I think they also got a 5% increase contractual. The unions have every year there's a general wage increase percentage, and then every so many years the officers or some of the unions have a step increase as well, whether it's every other year, every 3rd year. So that's a large driver there as well. Youth, Family, Human Services, that is a brand new department. So the budget as a whole is that $276,000. And then general government benefits. That is really health insurance, retirement liability, things like that. That's a very good number. This year our health insurance is going up 2%. Last year, you remember, I think it went up 7 or 9. And the year before that, it was double digits. So 2% this year was a great help to the budget. And then every other department in town hall, every other catch-all adds up to that $297,000. So all of that together gets us that $1.5 million, or roughly $500,000 increase for town operations. Oh, sorry, I don't know where I just clicked. John?
talking about step increases, how many departments in the town have step increases still?
It's union. It's union wide. So there's an UPSU union, police, dispatch, and firefighter union, and then non-affiliated. So there's 5 bargaining units, you could say. I don't know off the top of my head. I know for sure one of our largest unions, the UPSU, has that step increase. And I know the police every 18 months or 24 months they move up steps individually based on how long they've been there. So every contract's slightly different.
Do you remember how far back that started?
I do not.
Is there any chance it'll ever go away?
Without talking too much in union negotiations,
Yeah.
these contracts, the next contract up for negotiation is the UPSU contract, 7/1/25 is the next contract up for negotiation.
No, the school part of the budget, they did have step increases. Now, I forget if they still do or they don't.
I
do?
don't know I'm not familiar with the union contracts of the Board of Ed. So I don't know what they do.
2 questions. That's wonderful news about the health insurance increase. Would that be reflected in the education budget as well? Because it's all from the state, right, that you guys negotiate?
Yeah, so I have not talked to Mariana Stevens about whether I'm not sure. I'm not sure
Oh,
where
okay.
the 5.77 Board of Ed budget. I don't know if that is a projected amount for the health insurance. We'd have to ask Mariana Stevens.
Oh, okay. And then secondly, for the step increases, is it a set amount or does it vary which step you're at? And
So so I guess there's 2 answers there. There is set steps, right? So every whatever the period of time is, the GWI is about 2.75%, and a step is 2.5%. So if they move up a step, it is 2.5%. If they move a general wage increase, it's 2.75. So the 2.75 plus the 2.5 gives us that 5.25 that they're all going up. The UPSU employees are going up this year, and that's. I guess your question was, it's not person by person. I'm pretty sure with UPSU, it's the whole union wide. The union first of the year moves up a step.
okay, so it's
Unless you're at top step. If you're at top step,
So
you just get the GWI.
everything is synchronized then?
Yep, everyone moves up or moves down.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Is there a point, depending on how long you are in, say, the police force, that you reach your max and the step is not there anymore?
Yes. The same with UPSU and all the contracts. There's like limits. Like you're at the highest step. That's kind of the end of the road there.
Yeah.
But they still do get the GWI, right? They'd still get a GWI. They'd be in that last step. There's no way to go further steps, but every year the GWI does kind of whatever's negotiated with the unions. Does that make sense?
Sort of.
Okay. Okay. So we're going to jump into. So that was it for the operating budget. Now we're going to talk about capital projects. Department head submitted about $19 million of capital projects to the first selectman through negotiations. I believe it was $3.4 million. $3.4 million. The first selectman was able to cut out of the budget to present to the Board of Selectmen a $15.7 million capital projects list. The Board of Selectmen then reduced that further to $13.3 million. Just keep in mind that the $8,242,000 you see for the Board of Ed, I think $5 million of that, I have, on spreadsheets I have the exact numbers. Some of that is reimbursable from the state of Connecticut to the tune of 40.7%. So when the Board of Ed does a presentation, we can go through those numbers and get into more detail. But in total it's 13.3 million, but there's a caveat that about 2.6 million of that money is potentially reimbursable from the state of Connecticut. So we're really looking at about 11 million, give or take, 10, 11 million And then that does not include, so just so everyone is aware and we say this, that does not include the $6 million we have in bond anticipation notes out there, and then also $2 million we took out for the land acquisition we just bought. So besides this $13 million, the town has to bond an additional $8 million this year. Just so everyone, when we see the numbers come in, there's an additional $8 million that has to be bonded besides this number. So we can talk about that more when we get into capital projects.
The public works, that has nothing to do with water and sewer,
That is strictly town.
strictly town, okay.
Correct. Okay, so the capital projects, what is the breakdown of the current year capital projects? About 62% Board of Ed, 2% General Fund, 7% Public Safety, 24% Public Works, and about 5% Parks and Recreation. And this is not the department head, just so everyone knows, this is the Board of Selectmen proposed cuts, right? The numbers are obviously a little different now that there's been, $5 million of cuts to them. So this is now where we stand. All right, and then also we're going to talk about just high level, the 10-year capital plan. It is included in your budget books, I believe, in the very front page. It should be like it's not 3-hole punched because it's on legal paper, but it should be right in the front part of your book, folded up nicely, either the front or the back. And everyone have it there? It's in the back there, Rich?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So there's 2 documents there for everyone to look at. There is the current year capital plan. You can tell because it doesn't have 2025, 26, 27 across the top. And then there's the 10-year capital plan. Just some things I want to discuss about the 10-year capital plan. $97 million is a placeholder for that 10-year capital plan, but really the number's a little higher than that. Because if we go to 2030 and you go down to the high school, you'll notice there's a major recapitalization / renovations project at the high school that says TBD. So that is not inclusive of this $100 million. The central office, I believe in 2028, is also due for major renovations. That number is also TBD, so that number is not included. So those are, I think, 2 large, or potential large numbers that are TBD at the moment. So before we add those 2 numbers to the budget, the 10-year capital plan is about $9.7 million a year. So, and this is my plug for the Capital Improvement Committee, but we'll talk about that some other time. All right, and then does anyone have any questions? Just high-level questions. We can get any detailed questions after. Nope. Okay.
Just quickly, where are the TBDs noted?
TBDs, I'll show you after, Rich.
Oh, okay.
If you don't mind, I can. So that one you're looking at there, Rich, I can tell you're looking at current year capital.
Right.
The TBDs are on the 10-year capital. All current year capital numbers are solidified. Mr. Birmingham, I think you're also looking at the current year capital. That's the current year capital sheet.
Yeah.
Oh, yep,
okay.
yep.
Okay,
Yep.
I see the last sheet.
Yep. So I could just tell. I could see the difference in the 2 work papers.
Right.
Yeah.
The one with the grays is current year capital. The one you see the years across the top. That's the 10-year plan. Yep.
Question on the 10-year plan. I noticed that the numbers are very low when you go way out. Does that have something to do with with interest and present values?
When you say numbers, like the actual amounts of the capital project itself,
Yeah,
I think
education goes down to 900,000 from 3 million.
I think what happens, and I can only speak anecdotally based on my observations on this. I think the closer you get to current year, there's more investment and time put in. When you start looking 10 years out, I think 10 years out from now, who knows what's going to happen to that building unless you have a robust, facilities plan. So I think that's what, we get a couple years in the future. We're really, detailed in how we're planning. Then you start getting 4, 5, 6 years out, and it's okay. Well, those are some wish list items, and let's put them on the. I think the Park and Rec has in 2034, 2033. I think there's a $10 million new park in there. So there was no. These numbers are what's presented. There was no cuts. So it's whatever the department requested, right? So just keep that in mind here. But I think some of it, Jay, is I think sometimes it's just okay. Let's get through a couple years, and then they do a couple years at a time. Because, yeah. I mean, you look the next couple years, it's 10, 12, 13 million. Then you get 7 years out, it's 3 million. I doubt there's $3 million of needs out there. I bet you that's a $10 million number too. We just haven't gotten to it yet. So does that kind of answer your question a little?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's basically means that it's not very accurate when you get out.
Well, I mean, I think the fact that some capital projects this year showed up for the first time, when I did the 10-year capital plan last year, my question is, if it's on this year and it wasn't on last year, first question you get is, did you not know about this? Is it unexpected? Like, why wasn't this on your 10-year plan? And then how do you put this on your 10-year plan and just kind of get the department heads in that mindset? So we are working towards that, and I think we're really working towards that capital improvement committee or some sort of some sort of a group to get together and formalize procedures around capital. I think would be beneficial. And I only have one more slide, just so the public, if anyone, board members of the public, wants to review any documents, I worked with Mike Mines in the IT department to upload all of the documents you have in front of you. They're all on the website. So if anyone wants to see anything, you can go to the finance page or the Board of Finance page, go to budgets, fiscal year 24-25, and all the documents there are Board of Selectmen proposed budget numbers. So, anyone have any questions? All right, I know there will be a lot of questions. Yeah, so I know everyone has my email. I'll give you my cell phones as well. Just, you're only allowed to text between 8 a.m. and midnight. I need 8 hours of sleep. So we can talk about that after. So.
And you haven't been presented with the Board of Ed budget yet, have you?
They made a presentation to us. They'll be making a presentation to you. I mean, it's wrapped up.
Okay, because we usually get it around the same, past couple of years, we got it at the same time.
The Board of Finance budget, Board of Education budget books are in my office.
Oh, okay.
Dan has a copy.
I've got mine right here. But,
On your way out,
yeah.
stop by my office and I'll get you your books.
Does that include the slide deck as well?
The Board of Ed slide deck?
Yeah.
Unless it's in the book, it's not.
Oh, okay.
I can ask Marion Stevens for an electronic copy of it.
Yeah, it's online, so
Okay.
if you go to Board Docs.
Is it in there?
I have the presentation that they. I just, that's what they gave me and I put it in my book.
Oh.
Wasn't in the book.
Okay.
Yeah, that's available. So there you have it. I know we're going to have many meetings scheduled, and we'll try to wade through it with you and answer any questions you have as we move through it. We've tried to hand you a budget that is, we've tried to do our work to eliminate what we could, and of course we'll be interested to see where you take it from there. So if there's no further questions.
May have anything else for? Let's move on. Next, unfinished business. Anybody have any unfinished business they want to bring up? Or I think everything. Okay. Next on the agenda is public discussion. We don't have any public here, so we'll move on from there. And board comments. Anybody? Have any? Rich?
Yes. I remember when we were discussing dates for our meetings and for the budget deliberations, I was under the impression, and I know these dates have come by multiple times, but that week of April 8th, I believe Jay and I will not be here, and I think it's important if we're going to do deliberations that actually everybody be present.
Yeah, I know on the Monday the 8th I won't be here either, so
Yeah.
we're gonna have to reschedule that one.
Yeah, and the 10th, I think Jay and I will both be gone then too. Just wanted to bring that up. Another thing that I wanted to bring up that isn't necessarily in relationship to Board of Finance or the town government, but just to let the public be aware that Stars to STEM is having their ribbon cutting this Saturday over at the high school. The planetarium has been open for quite a while, but this will be their official ribbon cutting. And it's an organization that is entirely funded through donations, no tax dollars involved at all, unlike, you know, the variety of organizations that we've got in the humanities line. They did not receive any ARPA funding, and so it's quite an achievement that they've got. And if you haven't seen the projector in action, I suggest everybody attend because it's pretty awesome. So thank you.
Anybody else have anything? Or if not, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.